Don't change the channel. You're here for a reason. Enjoy a savage experience.
What is Bioshock? Bioshock is an action-adventure, horror-themed, first-person shooter by Irrational Games. Released by 2K Games in 2007 to the Xbox 360 and the PS3, later remastered in 2016 so that another generation may see what actual good video game writing looks like. Today we're going to re-enter Rapture, we're going to take another deep dive look at Bioshock, and we're going to see what exactly made it such a good game and why it's so memorable and why it is still considered one of the best video games ever released. The late 2000s, and in specific 2007, was considered a golden age for video game releases, with the likes of Halo 3 and World of Warcraft Burning Crusade being released alongside Bioshock. It had some pretty stiff competition, but it's safe to say that Bioshock has stood the test of time and is still highly rated as one of the greatest games to come out of this era. Speaking of ratings, even the cesspool known as Metacritic couldn't screw this slam dunk up, with 88 critic reviews putting it at a 96 out of 100 and 2,900 user reviews putting this at a 9.0. Bioshock is truly one of the highest rated video games of all time, and there is great reason for that we're going to go over today. What makes Bioshock unique? We can't mention Bioshock without speaking about its inspirations. Not everyone knows that System Shock 2 is the direct predecessor before Bioshock 1. A lot of the features, mechanics, combat, and atmosphere in System Shock 2 are directly translated over into Bioshock 1. We're not going to get into that today, but maybe someday we'll make a video honoring System Shock 2 and what it gave to the RPG and FPS community. Perhaps the largest inspiration of Bioshock is Ayn Rand's Atlas Shrugged. The philosophies espoused in Atlas Shrugged are seen through and through in Bioshock, and even the very main antagonist, the creator of Rapture himself, is almost the male recreation of Ayn Rand herself, creating his libertarian utopia where rules and laws don't exist because who wants to pay taxes? Also, there's Atlas. My personal favorite thing about Bioshock is its setting. Its art, its audio, every bit of its art direction is phenomenal. Bioshock takes place in Rapture, a neon city set at the bottom of the northern Atlantic Ocean, off the coast of Reykjavik, in icy waters. Rapture is a fully self-contained, self-sufficient bubble under the ocean, where once you enter, you cannot leave. The two rules you must abide by are that you have no contact with the surface, you can never again visit the surface, and no theft, because that's all that really matters in society apparently. The best part about Rapture is the world building that goes into it. Every single nook and cranny has something for you to explore. There are audio diaries for the citizens of Rapture. You can listen to their lives in luxury and in squalor, and you can witness the rise and fall of Rapture pretty much in real time. You learn the stories of businessmen who came here to escape government rules so that they can find another group of individuals to properly exploit without government overreach, and you find the families that were broken by these exploiters. You learn about the resistance fighters who fought back for equality, and you listen to the jackboots who chained them up and crucified them. There are so many concurrent stories in Rapture that have nothing to do with you, and in the scheme of things don't matter, but they are someone's story, and it's worth exploring. While the combat system in Bioshock is actually very rudimentary, it does have a leg up on its opposition. You have the ability to take drugs to rewrite your genetic code to essentially give yourself superpowers. Created by Ryan himself, you gain all kinds of interesting powers to use in different situations. One of my favorites is absolutely the ability to cook enemies with electricity who are standing in water. Bioshock not only hands you the elements literally in your hands, but it allows you to interact with the environment based on the elements that you're using. There's just something about the ability to electrocute enemies in water, to use fire to melt the ice in the passages that have been frozen due to the leaking over time, and the ability to use frost to put out fires or to slow down enemies so that you can break them into little pieces. There's just something about those little details in the game that make it feel very immersive and fun to play, and that's possibly why it's so memorable for me. I believe I've yapped enough at this point. Let's go ahead and get into our playthrough of Bioshock. We're going to talk about the mechanics and the story as we go. We are not going to be going over everything in the game as if this would be a 6-hour, 7-hour long video, and while I would love to do that, that's just not what I set out to do today. Maybe sometime in the future we'll take a much deeper dive, but until then, let's get after it. For our purposes today, we will be playing the remastered version that you can find on Steam, and I will be playing on the Survivor difficulty because, quite simply, I hate myself. Now, I'm going to let the opening video play because I feel as though I can't do it any justice, and I don't want to talk over it so you can understand the gravity of the situation that our main character finds themselves in.
They told me, son, you're special. You were born to do great things. You know what? They were right.
Now, I have to say, when 14-year-old me saw this for the very first time, it did absolutely nothing to help assuage my irrational fear of flying, which I still hold to this very day. I've never been on a plane, and Bioshock may be part of that reason, but that's something for a therapist to discuss. After some mild waterboarding, we do thankfully emerge, and we take a look around to see that our plane is blown to smithereens, and we are the last survivor. Strangely, however, we do not question the fact that there's a lighthouse in the middle of the Northern Atlantic Ocean, although that's kind of sus. Sussy or not, we do take a moment to really soak in our surroundings before peering into what I can only describe as Futurama's scary door. We take one last look at the burning fuselage behind us, and we make our way inside of what is definitely not the start of a horror game. Once inside, we are promptly greeted by a bust of what I can only imagine is our father, who has finally returned after all these years with the milk, and he comes with a banner, and he's very disappointed in us. No gods or kings, only men. Wonder what that means. Now, honestly, I believe that this is a very good rendition of Ryan, a giant bust made of gold looking down on us, declaring his intentions. No gods or kings, only man, while Ryan himself seems to be elevated to something that I could only describe to be akin to a king. I feel as though Ryan presents himself not only as a man, but the man. His goddamn pronoun is literally just him. We take a quick look around the inside of the lighthouse, noticing medallions on the wall, labeling science, industry, and art, letting us sort of know what Rapture's about while we have nice classical music playing in the background. And without a word and apparently a clear understanding of what a bathysphere is, our main character hops in and just pulls the lever. Whole hog, let's go. Now, I'm not going to do this a lot for the video, but I am going to let this one play because the entrance to Rapture is something you should experience without distraction.
I am Andrew Ryan, and I'm here to ask you a question. Is a man not entitled to the sweat of his brow? No, says the man in Washington, it belongs to the poor. No, says the man in the Vatican, it belongs to God. No, says the man in Moscow, it belongs to everyone. I rejected those answers. Instead, I chose something different. I chose the impossible. I chose Rapture. A city where the artist would not fear the censor, where the scientist would not be bound by petty morality, where the great would not be constrained by the small. And with the sweat of your brow, Rapture can become your city as well.
I cannot explain to you how hype I was when this scene first came about, when I got to see Rapture for the first time under the ocean with the Big Daddy welding and the whale moving below us. I was so excited, and it only goes up from here. This is the beginning. We start to hear chatter over the radio. We've apparently got friendlies in the area, and they want to help us. We do, however, hear them utter a vague warning to their allies about there being splicers in the area. For the rest of this video, I am going to refer to them as crackheads, because that's exactly what they are. Now, when our bathysphere finally lands inside of Rapture, we do abruptly get reminded that this is in fact a horror game as we watch an individual in front of us back away from one of aforementioned crackheads, who proceeds to eviscerate him and then attempts to enter the sub, fortunately unable to do so. Thankfully, we have a watchful eye on us. We have an ally named Atlas calling us over the radio, who says that he can help us get out as long as we listen.
But I never want to question Providence. I'm Atlas.
With the introduction to Rapture out of the way, and the introduction to horror just beginning, we get our first objective, and that is to lure out the splicer that just eviscerated the man right in front of us. The very first thing we do, and a great way to introduce us to part of the game's mechanics, is we stand in front of the security camera, showing just how easily it is to be assailed by a trash can robot with helicopter blades and a machine gun. Female crackhead driven off for the moment, we get the single best item you can receive in any game, the adjustable wrench. I'm kidding, I mean the pipe wrench. Upon receiving the pipe wrench, we do go full monk and begin to break down walls and beat crackheads' heads in. Crackhead thoroughly dispatched, we take a moment to let the ambience sit in, which is, terrifying, and then we take a moment to have ourselves a snack and return to human. Here we learn that we can eat to regain health and Eve. Now personally, I'm super invested and interested in Rapture's lore, so I take every moment that I can to go by the wayside and look at these little presentations about Rapture and how it came about. See this one right here that states November in 1946 marks the construction of Rapture. Then we check trash cans for drugs, and then we look at the propaganda because it's very 1950s-esque and something about it feels very homey. Our thirst for drugs not thoroughly slaked yet, we grab the closest syringe and inject the glowing liquid directly into our veins for some ungodly reason, before Atlas comes over the radio and tells us just to ride it out and have a nice trip and we'll be alright.
Code is being rewritten. Just hold on and everything will be fine.
However, Atlas did not know that there were crackheads everywhere and it would not be alright. We get two very ugly men who insult us while we're on the ground, writhing and possibly foaming at the mouth, before seeing one of the most terrifying sights this game has to offer: Little Sisters and Big Daddies, a system that we will talk about later in the game.
Look, Mr. Bubbles, it's an angel.
Now that we're out of drugs and we've came down from our trip, riding that electric high, we shock the door and make our way through the tunnel, where we see a piece of our aircraft still trying to take us out, because flying is dangerous and humans should not do it. We don't have wings. Here the combat in Bioshock really starts to shine when we learn that we can shock crackheads and then beat them to death. My god, the inside voices are winning. When you're in Rapture, don't forget to take a good post-murder break where you can really just sightsee and take in the city of Rapture. Personally, I think this really is a beautiful sight. In multiple areas of Rapture, I do just get lost looking out the window, trying to see as much of the city as possible. The fact that the exterior actually changes based on where you are in Rapture and it's not just a static PNG background on the outside really shows how much thought, detail, and care was put into the design of Rapture, and that's beautiful. I hope you're not bored of me shilling Rapture yet, because I'm going to do it for this entire video. I personally love all of the tiny details, the fact that you can walk around and see the banners, letting you know what Rapture was supposed to be about, particularly advancing society without restrictions, creativity, commerce. Ryan's got it all, baby. Everything but laws and a minimum wage. Atlas drops a bombshell on us, letting us know what our next objective is. He's got a family, and he's trying to get the hell out of Dodge, and he's going to bring us with him as long as we help. And we trust Atlas. He's not let us down, right? We're not exactly what you would call an upstanding citizen, so of course we rob the first mother we see, and we get our first piece, baby. We invite ourselves to Rapture's New Year's party, make our way to the women's restroom for reasons, and then we watch a spliced up ghost talk to herself in the mirror, because that's one of the ways Rapture tells stories. It's pretty cool. It's honestly cool. There's a lore reason for it. Just wait. As we touched on previously, most of Bioshock's story is told through these audio diaries you pick up off the floor, scattered everywhere. There's over 120 of them, and they tell you everything from how someone's day went to the secret Krabby Patty recipe. Playing Bioshock without picking these up is missing half the game, and you can fight me on that. Traveling through the suspiciously man-sized glory hole in the back of the men's restroom, we come to our very first actual encounter with a little sister, where Atlas kindly tells us, what the fuck is that? To shut up, lower our weapon, and watch the festivities. Atlas kindly informs us that this is not actually an 8-year-old, but truthfully a 9,000-year-old vampire. Just kidding, anime reference. However, she is extremely dangerous and not to be messed with. This is one of those scenes that just lets you know exactly how dangerous Rapture is, and personally, I love it. Don't end up like this guy. Encounter over, and the shaking and quaking in my boots finally subsided. It's time to go loot the dead man, like any upstanding citizen would. 1950s beat your wife vibes. Here we get our first chance to really toaster in the bathtub the splicers, and it's a lot of fun, and it's something you're gonna do for the entire game. Just don't do like me and hop in the water that is still very, very clearly electrified. I don't know. Always search containers because you can get absolutely schmammered in this game. I'm talking 0.50 BAC, and it makes for a really interesting time trying to fight. We're on our way to Neptune's bounty, and suddenly we're not. Alarm triggered, and it's time to fight for our lives like we're in a Taco Bell bathroom and we just ate all the fire sauce. Bioshock has a few defense sequences, but none of them are this easy because literally all we do is keep throwing the toaster in the bathwater as the crackheads jump into it, and then we loot their filthy little pockets. Head to the security checkpoint, and what do you know? Another alarm. A heartfelt message from Ryan where he uses some choice language. And then a scene that stressed me out so much as a teenager that I almost turned the game off right here. However, Atlas, our boy, coming through for us again, gets us the hell out of there. On lockdown now, we move to the medical wing and try to break through the emergency access. Here we get introduced to those stupid little trash cans with guns and hacking. A system that is both very fun and very frustrating. While I did become a master at it yet again, there are also certain hacks that you literally just cannot complete, and it had me raging at one point near the end of the game, because if you fail a hack, it can start an alarm or kill you, and that's great. Little flying machine gun monkey secured, we press forward. Really feels good to have a companion, not gonna lie. We get some nice exposition here from one of the mad scientists, Steinman, where he talks about how much he hates being a surgeon. Ooh, piece of candy. It's a Tommy gun. We flip the override switch and it's time to Helm's Deep the medical pavilion. Crackheads defeated, we make our way downtown and we get to see another spliced up ghost have an outburst, and this one, the voice acting is on point. Ring the doorbell. Here we get introduced to the atrocities of the medical wing, which personally make my stomach churn because these people who wanted to be prettier got used as guinea pigs, and it is sad. Hacked a turret. Hacked a turret. Hacked a vending machine for funsies. The way ahead is frozen, so we have to either figure a way around or figure out how to get through it. We make our way to the funeral home, and holy shit, Meemaw lit a cigarette on her oxygen again. We get introduced to a new enemy here, and funnily enough, it's just a man with a box full of fucking grenades. And even funnier, the first thing he does is kick us. Now let's chase him down while taking back shots from our turret. Interview passed, we begin our first day as a mortician, and the first thing we do is cremate this body. Thankfully, Sally was keystering a plasmid, so we get a brand new upgrade. A lot of plasmids are found through nefarious ways throughout Rapture, and I personally like this one the best. Crouch through the glory hole and grab the new plasmid. We're surrounded, but there's conveniently oil spilled everywhere, and now we have fire at our fingertips. You know what to do. Never forget that this is actually a horror game, and it will put you in situations like this that make me bug out. This was the first point in the game that I felt like a crackhead, because I didn't know where the hell this guy went, and I was just looking around waiting on something to happen. But no crackheads today, only the Sword of Damocles. Fire plasmid secured, it's time to make our way through the frozen tunnel into the dental sector. We now cosplay as a short person and can't reach the key here. Hack a rocket turret that killed my trash can. Here we muck about and cosplay as one of the little rascals if they could set your feet on fire. Alright, the bait, meant for me, the main character. We take the bait and are briefly re-reminded that this is indeed a horror game. Killing crackheads to the ink spots is actually a favorite pastime of mine. Here we make our way to Daddy Dental, because for whatever reason they're sponsored by telekinesis. Watch our new telekinesis ad.
Grenades and throw them back.
Practice telekinesis by grabbing balls. No longer hampered by being vertically challenged, we can now reach the top shelf and the key. Moving into the surgery wing, we see the holy hell, what is that? That's right, sports fans. It's time to get nervous. That's a Big Daddy. Chasing the mad Grenade Man, he blocks our path with a huge explosion, unfortunately. Thankfully for us, Grenade Man wants all the smoke, but doesn't realize that we can pick these cherries out of the air with our new mind powers.
The Lord hates a quitter.
The way cleared, we make our way into the surgery wing and we get to start really seeing what Steinman was doing to these people, and I hate body horror. But the thing I do like about the body horror here is that it's extremely realistic. And what I mean by that is that people are not being Cronenberged. It's time to face Steinman's insanity.
What can I do with this one, Aphrodite? She won't stay still! I want to make them beautiful, but they always turn out wrong! That one's too fat! This one too tall! This one too symmetrical! And now, what's this, guys? An intruder! He's ugly! 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 Ugly!
Rude. Steinman forgot to shower before work, so we bathed him with the toaster and then Tommy tucked him in. We get Steinman's key, we're on our way, and we get some flashbacks of before the plane crash. Immediately before finding the Big Daddy we saw earlier guarding the little sister. The poor sod gets obliterated. Unfortunately, his pockets are empty. Here we get a neat little cutscene with Tenenbaum, the lady responsible for the little sisters.
Now, Doctor, he's just looking for a wee bit of Adam. Just enough to get by.
I'll not have him hurt my little ones.
It's okay, lad. It's not a child. Not anymore, it ain't. Dr. Tenenbaum saw to that.
Bitte do not hurt her. Have you no heart?
Aye, that's a pretty sermon coming from the ghoul who cooked up them creatures in the first place. Took fine little girls and turned them into that, didn't you? Listen to me, boyo. You won't survive without the Adam those things are carrying. Are you prepared to trade your life, the lives of my wife and child, for Tenenbaum's little Frankenstein?
Here. There is another. Use this. Free them from their torment. I will make it to be worth your while. Somehow.
Here we come to Bioshock's karma mechanic. It's a good or bad. We either harvest the little sister and destroy her, or we save her and we get less Adam. Now, personally, I'm a ninny and I can't have anyone upset with me, so of course, I save the little sister. We actually save every little sister on this playthrough, so if you're looking for a bad playthrough, this ain't it, boyo. However, I will say that I do include the bad ending at the end of this video, so you get to see both endings regardless of how I played it. Juicy, yummy life juice squeezed out of this little child. We nom 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 it and then spin it in the vending machine for an Eve upgrade, because I like to be able to shoot more lightning. However, now that we've had our first taste of Adam, we are ravenous, and it's time to go hunt down Big Daddies for sport and wring those little girls dry. Lockdown deactivated, we can head straight to Neptune's bounty and try to free Atlas's family.
I don't know how you managed it, but you did.
Arrival in Neptune's bounty, however, is less than welcoming, considering the crucified smuggler immediately before us.
Submarine hidden in the foundation of Fontaine Fisheries.
We get our next objective from Atlas. Beneath Fontaine Fisheries, his family's in a submarine. We're set to meet them there. This area is somehow even creepier than the last because now we have spider splicers and they can crawl on walls and they can sneak up behind you, and I hate it. I hate it. Get it out of here. We get to learn all about Fontaine's smuggling business here through all the audiobooks and people that have battery cables clamped to their nipples.
You give us Fontaine and this old filthy ring of his, and you'll be knocking back pints up at the Fighting McDonald's.
We make it to Fontaine Fisheries and shit gets real creepy.
And one day the gentleman stopped calling.
We meet Peach Wilkins, who is extremely skeptical of the main character, but despite being skeptical, hands us a grenade launcher, so thanks, Peach. Peach Wilkins gives us our first major side quest. We have to go find a camera and take photos of the splicers because somehow it's going to give him ideas on how to kill them easier. Why doesn't he just reduce their health to 0? Turns out the grenade launcher is extremely effective for killing Big Daddies and stealing their little girls. After squeezing enough children dry, we get a present for being so nice. It's a teddy bear full of drugs. Just what I wanted.
Freeze your enemies. Shatter them into 1,000 pieces.
My favorite plasmid in the game acquired, we immediately start freezing things and hacking them for funsies. Another blue-collared working man murdered and his daughter stolen. I found this scene particularly creepy as soon as we get the camera. Tell me what you think.
Jesus loves me, this I know, for the Bible tells me so.
Good. You got the camera. Now get me some snaps on those spider splicers. And don't come back down here till you've got my research.
Ones to him belong.
Every time I play Bioshock, the camera ends up being one of my absolute favorite mechanics of the entire game. I find myself quick swapping between attacking enemies with frost, lightning, or fire whenever they're distracted, and then hurrying up and trying to catch a photo of them mid-air swinging at me with the camera. I think it's really fun and cool to do, and it reminds me of my Pokemon Safari days, except there's actual danger in this game. And I guarantee pretty much anyone who picks up the game is going to enjoy it, because you get more points based on action shots when you're getting attacked or shot at, or if an enemy's running away or on fire, etc. And you get even more points the more enemies you catch in the frame. And it's just a fun little almost mini game. It's like fishing. You know what I mean? You know when you play Far Cry and you go fishing. Anyways, we start getting audio diaries here from Andrew Ryan himself talking about how much he just hates Fontaine. So much so that it's ruining his life with his woman. And that's how you know you live rent-free in someone's head. We finally find the smuggled in contraband, and it's not exactly what you expect. It's mostly just Bibles and religious texts, because that is outlawed in Rapture. For whatever reason, Andrew Ryan wants everyone to have freedom of personal choice in anything and everything except for the things he doesn't like, because that's how dictators work. For me, this is one of the saddest parts in the entirety of Bioshock, but truthfully, it's probably not going to hit home if you didn't read the book like I did. Rapture by John Shirley does a phenomenal job of fleshing out not only the world, but the characters prior to the fall of Rapture. And these two individuals here were mentioned in the book quite heavily. Prior to the fall of Rapture, their little girl goes missing, Masha, and they spend a long time looking for her. And well, this audio diary concludes their discovery.
We saw our Masha today. We barely recognize her. That's her, Sam said. You're crazy, I told him. That thing? That is our Masha? But he was right. She was drawing blood out of a corpse by Fontaine Fisheries. And then when she was done, she walked off hand in hand with one of those awful golems. Masha!
We steal another child. We head back to old Peachy Wilkins, who somehow still doesn't trust us and wants us to throw all of our weapons away before entering his humble abode. Unfortunately, Atlas agrees with him. Taking Atlas's advice, we do disarm ourselves from everything except for the god weapon, the pipe wrench, and plasmids, so Peach Wilkins really can't get a hand up on us. We begin to loot Fontaine Fisheries, and what do you know? It was a trap all along. The fog ensues, and then the fight. Peach Wilkins somehow forgot that he's flammable and has a noggin, and we've been perfecting our bonking skills. Peach Wilkins bonked to oblivion. We start using our plasmids, particularly fire, to start melting our surroundings and looking for hidden treasures, which I think is a very fun mechanic. Ice melted away, we find our very first Pack-a-Punch. Every weapon in the game, minus the pipe wrench, can be Pack-a-Punched 2 times, and you can Pack-a-Punch every weapon in one run through. Obviously, I Pack-a-Punched the shotgun because I listened to Nirvana.
You can't quit. Fontaine will find you. Hey, fuck Fontaine. You don't fuck Fontaine. Fontaine fucks you.
It is absolutely saying something when the ghosts are afraid of you. After all our trials, tribulations, tests, and fighting, we've made it. We're in the Smuggler's Cove, where Atlas' family is waiting to be saved. We get hit with a cheeky little flashback of our folks, who we don't really remember, I guess. We've had no story about them. And Atlas radios us telling us that he can't get into his family and we've got to open the gates for him. Andrew Ryan decides to radio us once again and tell us to go suck an egg. Finally, we've made it to the fabled control room. Let's hit the button and see what happens. With Atlas in trouble, the game turns into Doom, and we have to race against the clock to get to Atlas. In what did feel like a truly unexpected twist, the sub-containing Atlas family explodes right before our eyes, and there's nothing we can do. The voice acting from Atlas going forward is absolutely superb.
Moira. Patrick. Ain't that just like Ryan? Waits until we're almost out, and then he pulls the string. We'll find the bastard. We'll find him, and we'll tear his heart out.
I'm not gonna lie, when Atlas is yelling, "We're gonna tear his heart out," it gets me excited. It gets me going. He did a good ass job. Atlas graciously gives us our very next objective, and that is going straight to Ryan's doorstop and ending him. And right here we get the lore reason for Ghosts, which is kind of cool, and it's very interesting considering it came out at around the same time Assassin's Creed did, so Bioshock kind of did the weird genetic memories first.
Side effects of this plasmid business. One poor sod's memory is getting passed on to another through genetic sampling.
Oh, sugar, I'm spliced up in ways you never dreamed of.
I personally think the allusion here to sex plasmids is genuinely hilarious.
Now I just gotta stop by the thrifty care to pick up a med hypo, just to be safe.
This audio diary in particular reminds me of when Family Guy had Quagmire take a flu and AIDS pill. And if that doesn't scream utopia, I don't know what does, man.
Oh, I got AIDS again. Better take my NyQuil cold flu and AIDS.
We get an audio diary here that's pretty interesting for the story because it's Tenenbaum talking about how implanting the slugs inside of the little sister's stomach lining is what allows them to produce more Adam more quickly. And that's a level of body horror that I don't like because it involves children.
And then we have 20, 30 times yield of usable atom. The problem now is the shortage of hosts. Fontaine says patience, Tannenbaum. Soon, the first home for little sisters will open, and that problem will be solved.
Here we get introduced to one of the most annoying enemies in the game, aptly named Houdini Splicers. These sons of bitches can teleport on command, and it is extremely annoying and also horrifying because they like to poltergeist things around you. And they're honestly just really hard to kill. Like, I hated when these were introduced. They suck. A quick aside, the teleportation plasmid is the entire reason that Andrew Ryan wanted to start regulating the market. I wanted to include this just to show off. I get irrationally upset here because the game literally gave me an incompletable hack, and I think that was really dirty of the devs, and I hope you're watching this because f*** you. Immediately after failing my hack, however, we are introduced to a new game mechanic, the U-Invent machine, which allows us to actually make certain kinds of ammo. And this made looting enemies so much more profitable, reasonable, and it gave me more of a reason to explore because I could start making the most powerful ammo in the game so long as I spent a couple extra minutes here and there taking a look at the environment. And that's a great way to reward exploration, in my opinion. Another drug bear. Here we get to listen to how Andrew Ryan had a forest and the government asked him to make a park out of it, so he just burned it to the fucking ground, which is honestly big baller energy. Good for him and for Texas.
Congress moved to nationalize my forest. I burnt it to the ground.
Also, I haphazardly fail a hack here, and look how close I get to my first death. We're making our way to Ryan's place when suddenly we're locked down and he's poisoning the air. There's something that the game never really touches on, and it's that cults have formed in Rapture, and they do some really heinous shit. You don't really get to hear about it in the game, but in the book they're pretty fleshed out, and they do questionable things with octopuses. We're not going to talk anymore about it, but I figured I'd bring it up just because lol.
They drink human blood and chant, "Harness the flame, harness the mist," and believe they're touched by the ancient god. An aging bunch of frat boys tilting back goblets of plasmids and calling it ambrosia.
One of my favorite things about Arcadia is the fact that there's just tiny little hidey holes in the wall like this that are there for no reason. There's nothing behind them. They don't progress your game in any way, shape, or form, but if you're low on resources and you really spend your time looking around, the game will kind of hold your hand, and it'll allow you to pick yourself back up by your bootstraps just like Ryan intended. We make our way to Julie Langford, the individual responsible for this forest under the ocean, and we have a flower that she needs, and she can use it to fix Ryan's sabotage. She's kind of an ass, and our interaction with her is very minimal, but she's extremely intelligent and helps us further our goal to move forward.
This is perfect. Perfect. Come on up to my office.
Ryan really hates it when his previous allies help us to thwart him, and he likes taking the old gas chamber route and just gassing everyone he can. So unfortunately, this is the end of Langford. We hardly knew ye, but she's smart enough to write the code to her safe on the wall before she expires. Opening the safe, we get the recipe and the plans for how to save Rapture. And just like on land, down here under the sea, the key to survival is bees. Their spit, to be precise. Time to go do every hipster's favorite thing. We make our way to the farmer's market, an activity that I've not engaged in since I broke up with my crazy ex 10 years ago. I refused to buy $8 tomatoes, sweetie. Things honestly go pretty smoothly on your way to the farmer's market. There's not a lot of opposition, and you do get to look around at Rapture some more and just appreciate the sights. I personally spent this time trying to stock up on resources. My wallet was near full, but I was dangerously low on ammunition after missing all those shots on Houdini splicers. The farmer's market is one of the most forgettable areas in the game, not because it's poorly designed or there's not a lot to do here, but it's just kind of small and we only have a single objective here. I think this was one of the only places in the game where we'd never backtracked and we only had a single objective, which I'm not complaining about because I hate farmers markets. We do get some funny audio logs here where they talk about charging people to spend time with the bees, which I think is hilarious because I would rather pay you to keep the bees away from me, but these people are literally insane because they haven't seen sunlight in well over 10 years at this point. Also, we get a really good audio log where we hear Andrew Ryan's distaste with little sisters, saying that he understands the necessity for them, but he wishes we could make them more presentable. We murder a blue-collar worker and steal its child, per usual. Listen, I love bees and I know they're a necessity, but watching this man get stung to death does nothing but increase my anxiety tenfold. And what do you know? I'm minding my own business over here doing nothing except taking photos, and they come over here to get my ass, man. The mechanics here are pretty cool. Just like IRL when beekeepers are trying to relocate bees, we have to turn on the smoke machines, which puts the bees in kind of a pacified, docile state. And we have to just search every single beehive for enough spit to fill this vial. This section was honestly very fun and nerve-wracking because the area is trapped. It's filled with bees. You're on a timer, and when the timer runs out, the bees will resume and they will destroy you because you're in the wrong neighborhood, cuh. You're constantly also being assailed by groups of splicers that do not end as long as you're in this chamber, and you cannot leave the chamber so long as the timer is counting down. It's honestly a ride. I almost died here a good 3 or 4 times. We pack-a-punch our machine gun because the sheer amount of machine gun ammo we're finding at this point is ridiculous and is absolutely a sign from the heavens. After near 20 minutes of wandering around in a circle in the smallest part of Rapture, I realized that I never found the final enzyme sample and had to go back and redo the smoke machine again. Ingredients keistered, we make our way back to the central misting control. We pop that bad boy in there and we thwart Ryan's plans yet again. But apparently releasing an airborne pathogen like we're Walt Disney takes more time than anticipated. So it's time for a defense sequence. And I've got to say, by this point in the game, I've really started to enjoy these. It's fun to lay traps and watch dozens of enemies run into them and explode. Lazarus Vector successfully deployed. It's time to make our way to Ryan's humble abode and give him a piece of our mind.
Take a deep breath and enjoy it. Then head over to Rolling Hills and get the bathysphere. Next stop is Ryan's house. It's time for blood.
We land in Fort Frolic, a name that is indicative of the types of personalities we will find here. And I'm not going to lie to you guys, I spent way too long gambling on the very 2 first slot machines I saw in the game. I mean, I will never financially recover from the amount of money that I lost in this playthrough at these 2 gambling machines. We start seeing all kinds of goodies behind the windows, so we do some window shopping, only to learn that the windows all have alarms because it's been 6 hours in this game now, and I forgot that the #1 rule is no theft. I start setting off alarms left and right, and it gets really dicey. We make our way to the bathysphere, and oh no, What is this? Our way gets barred. Again, this never happens. We now get introduced to Sander Cohen. I'm going to refer to him as the Mad Poet because he does more than act. Cohen is, however, not a simple pencil pusher. He is absolutely batshit insane, and he's going to make that our problem.
Ah, that's better. Atlas Ryan. Atlas Ryan. Da 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 da. Time-wise, you could get something decent on the radio. The artist has a duty to seduce the ear and delight the spirit. So say goodbye to those two blowhards, and hello to an evening with Sander Cohen.
We do a quick, easy little defense section before he hands us the keys to the kingdom.
Come in! Sander Cohen awaits you.
And upon entering, the first thing we do is, of course, gamble the last bit of our money away. Here we get reminded that Bioshock is indeed a horror game, and Sander Cohen has been turning people into living statues, and it's not fun. It's terrifying, and some of them move. Taking a break mid-killing spree, I decide to admire some crabs right here at this leak. We will soon be in the same room, my crustaceous little feller. We grab our next Pack-a-Punch, which proceeds to put a compensator on our Tommy gun, which is honestly phenomenal. It turns this into a veritable killing machine. We make our way to Sander Cohen's room just like he asked us to do before he yells at us and tells us to leave and advises us that he's not willing to actually sit down and parlay with us until we murder his 3 ex-boyfriends. I know there are women watching this video right now pumping their fists, and I got you, sister. However, as mentioned, Cohen is in fact an artist, so we can't just murder them. We have to photograph the evidence, and the cops aren't going to like this one. We cannot beat these allegations of murder. It's also here where I learned that the breaking windows to start an alarm tactic does not include just me. When friendly hacked machinery accidentally destroys a window, I get a red alarm and get attacked by flying trash cans with machine guns. And I think that's stupid, and I hate it, devs. We cosplay a bit as Mr. Freeze. Cohen hands us the keys to yet another wing of Fort Frolic. On our way to murder the first ex-companion, we get reminded yet again that this is indeed a horror game. We get some exposition from the first ex, Martin Finnegan, who apparently got tossed into a freezer and then started murdering everyone. I thought this section was very well done because there are a lot of individuals that are frozen and we can just run around and beat them to death with the wrench before they can unthaw, before suddenly we ourselves are caught unawares and frozen. We get to have a face-to-face, first-hand encounter with Martin, and honestly, he would make a good boss if they gave him a larger health pool.
Bitch left me to freeze. I've got a pose all picked out for you.
Martin dispatched, school photo taken. We get some extremely weird exposition from Sander Cohen.
Take a photo of him and place it in the quad tick. I'm feeling full, like an expectant mama.
What? We begin making our way downtown, walking fast, shooting splicers in the ass. And we find ourselves at the local strip club. Time to take a break, guys. Let's see if we can get our hands on some of those NSFW plasmids. Upon entering the gentleman's club, we get some very extremely important exposition from an old biddy here who turns out to be Andrew Ryan's side piece. She apparently offered him services on the side. Quick pause here to show you the coolest photo I took of a Big Daddy my entire playthrough, with him on fire rushing towards me. And then I steal his child. Listen, I know I've got a problem, but every good man steps in that ring knowing he may lose the battle. Fuck. Here we get a chance to sneak up on Cohen's next ex-boyfriend, and oh my god, that's a bomb. These splicers really just do not know when to quit. Crawl through the well-placed glory hole. We chase Cobb down, give him a few back shots, get our photo, and we're on our way to our next ex-boyfriend. Cohen gives us some extremely creepy exposition about wanting to do stuff to us, and it doesn't sound inviting. We'll just say that.
You're an angel. I've never painted an angel. Maybe I should.
I do really never get over the dystopian hilarity of mowing a working man down in front of his child, taking a photo, and then stealing the child. Rapture truly is a fun place. Cohen briefly gets upset at us for something that I'm still not sure what happened or why, but he tries to kill us and then immediately apologizes after we murder everything with a pulse. Smart. Back to the strip club. I never entered the back room, but we do get a really very important audio log here.
That creepy Dr. Tenenbaum promised me it wasn't going to be a real pregnancy. They just take the egg out once Mr. Ryan and I had...
This bombshell tells us right now that Jasmine Jolene was bearing Ryan's child. He did not know it, and she sold it to the crazy scientists. That revelation aside, Rodriguez, the final boyfriend, is outside waiting for us to go chase him down for a hilariously long amount of time while we sporadically give him back shots waiting on him to keel over. Eventually, we're able to take him down, get our final photo, and it's time to return to Cohen. But only after Cohen gives us some very unneeded and unwanted exposition about their previous relationship. Final photo placed, Cohen decides to finally grace us with his presence, and I waste absolutely zero time in attempting to murder the man. Cohen is unfortunately a Houdini splicer, so it ruined my day. However, I was able to finally dispatch him, which somehow automatically breaks the radio transmission jamming, and we get Ryan back on the radio. You know me, never leaving a stone unturned. We make our way back to Cohen's dressing room that he so viciously kicked us out of the first time we got here, and we learned that he was actually planning to turn on Ryan himself. Seems all of Ryan's previous cohorts had some plan or another to turn against him. Before leaving Fort Frolic, we're able to find our very next pack-a-punch, which I end up deciding to use on the grenade launcher before receiving a mild jump scare where one of the moving statues ended up behind me. Thankfully, I was able to shoot it before it could start moving and actually make me pee my pants. I really wanted to leave this entire conversation with Atlas in here because not only does he make fun of the fact that we spent pretty much all of our learnings on gambling, he gives us our next objective, which is to go and finally end Ryan before we end up as an atom ghost like everyone else. He uses some very particular phrasing, and Hephaestus is honestly one of the most visually stunning areas in all of Rapture due to the change in color palette and the fact that it's the powerhouse of the entire city and it's built on an active volcano. That's just cool.
It's time to either run the table or go home empty. Ryan's got the genetic key to Rapture. We get that from him and we get out of this hellhole. We don't, then you and I are ghosts. Now would you kindly head to Ryan's office and kill the son of a bitch? It's time to finish this.
We enter Ryan's main display hall and we get some very ominous words from him where he essentially tells us that he's going to nail us to the wall like everyone else. The game doesn't really tell you this, but that first corpse right there on the right is actually Bill McDonough, which was Ryan's best friend. And it's just pretty harrowing to think that the only person that Ryan trusted ended up on that fucking wall. It's at this point in the game I actually got smart when fighting big daddies and decided to start using traps. And look at that, I almost instantly kill him. I am so dumb. Why haven't I been doing this the whole time? Still his daughter, per usual. Cocaine Bear, let's go. We murder some more innocent big daddies because that's most of what this section is. It really turns into a lot of fighting here and a lot less of what it has been the rest of the game. The pacing is honestly really good and it's a lot of fun to just get to stretch your legs with your weapons. Also, we have to kill a ton of these big daddies so that we can rip them open and take out their suit components to make a bomb later. EMP bomb found in a hole in the wall. We learned that all the big daddies we murdered have not been murdered in vain and we need to rip out their wiring clusters. Now this section of the game took me a very long time because the little arrow that's been at the top of the screen for the entirety of this game disappears, and every time you pick up another item that's supposed to go in that bomb, the arrow comes back and tells you to go place it in the bomb, and it is really annoying. Do not follow the arrow. I entered a room that was more heavily booby-trapped than Fort Knox, and it pretty much ruined my day here. I tried to get through this without taking any damage, and it was terrible. However, when you do make it through all the traps in here, you're rewarded with your very next pack-a-punch, which I decided to use on my pistol because we've had the little guy since the beginning of the game, and he's gotten no love. I'm also an idiot and didn't use it on a bigger, better gun. Don't be me. We hit the little secret button on the side of the dash and grab the nitroglycerin cluster. Murder another big daddy, still his inside bits, and make our way to the forge. Murder a few more innocent Big Daddies just because we can. At this point, I don't even need their wiring harnesses anymore. I'm doing this for fun. I've got a personal vendetta against these guys. I set this guy up for failure and made him attack 2 turrets, and I just kind of sat back and let him take him out and shot him in the ass when he got low enough. This was really rude of me, but complain to HR. Bomb created, it's time to move on. We're about to start a defense section as we open up the magma chambers to evaporate the water below us so we can make our way to the core of the forge and plant the EMP bomb. Also, I love this area due to the bullet bukkake that the 2 of these turrets are able to put out for the splicers trying to fucking teleport their way in here. Honestly, physically arousing. More family flashbacks while Ryan tells us that we belong down here at the bottom of the sea for some strange reason that makes no sense to us right now. The core is gorgeous. I think that it was very well designed. The level designers really did a great job when they made this thing. Ryan begins to try to bargain with us. He does not want us to place this EMP right here on this core because this is going to melt down all of Rapture and essentially destroy the entire city. However, Mama didn't raise no quitters, so we do the damn thing and we get a nice little explosion to watch. Once the festivities begin, we have to get the hell out of Dodge as quickly as possible, and this is a really fun section where we just run away and try not to die. After all the running, fighting, killing, and dispatching of Ryan's previous allies, we finally make it to the center of Hephaestus. Ryan begins to really old man rage over the radio and just talks a whole bunch of nonsense about how he thinks we're trying to steal his city, which is wild and that's never been our goal. Ryan, however, does authorize one final get-together and wants to have a chat with us in his office. We yet again get one of the very most important audiobooks in the game with some exposition by Suchong, talking about how the Vita chambers work and how they're all keyed specifically to Ryan's DNA. Huh, that's weird.
They keep saying plasmid reconstruction this and quantum entanglement that, and then poof, dead people come back to life. Bullshit! Of course, Ryan will only allow it to be tuned to his genetic frequencies for the testing.
We drop through the vent glory hole into a criminal minds master room, and we get to listen to, yet again, some more of the best, most important audio logs in the game. They're easily overlooked, and since your confrontation with Ryan is about to begin, I honestly overlooked these on my first playthrough, and I really shouldn't have.
Advanced deployment, Lot 111, Dr. Suchong, client Fontaine Futuristics. Baby is now a year old, weighs 58 pounds, and possesses gross musculature of a fit 19-year-old. The results are disappointing, but within expected tolerances.
Our journey finally over. I'm gonna let the cutscene with Ryan play.
The assassin has overcome my final defense, and now he's come to murder me. In the end, what separates a man from a slave? Money? Power? No. A man chooses. A slave obeys. You think you have memories. A farm. A family. An airplane. A crash. And then this place. Was there really a family? Did that airplane crash? Or was it hijacked? Forced down. Forced down by something less than a man. Something bred to sleepwalk through life until they are activated by a simple phrase spoken by their kindly master. Was a man sent to kill, or a slave? A man chooses. A slave obeys. Come in. Stop, would you kindly? Would you kindly? Powerful phrase. Familiar phrase.
Would you kindly? Would you kindly get this? Would you kindly find that? Would you kindly find that? Would you kindly find? Would you kindly get this? Would you kindly head to Ryan's office and kill the son of a bitch?
Sit, would you kindly? Stand, would you kindly? Run! Stop! Turn. A man chooses. A slave obeys. Kill! A man chooses. A slave obeys. Obey!
Hurry now! Grab Ryan's genetic key! Now would you kindly put it in that goddamn machine?
Now, I want to freeze right here to talk about a few things. The first time I saw this, I had no clue what just happened. I didn't pay attention to much of the story. I missed a ton of the audiobooks, just like most players probably will in their first playthrough. The only thing that I could understand is that we were brainwashed, and we were apparently being used by Atlas, and we were meant to come to Rapture from the beginning. While that is a wild revelation, I'd like to divert everyone's attention back a couple hours in the game, a few minutes in the video. There is only one individual that Ryan has had any problem with in all of Rapture, truly, aside from Ms. Lamb, who kind of created the cults. That's Fontaine. At this point in the game, when we enter Rapture, Fontaine has vanished. Well, everyone says he's dead, but others whisper that he's still alive. Remember when Peach Wilkins thought that we were working for Fontaine? Well, he wasn't exactly too far off. At this point in the game, if you've picked up all the audiobooks and you've paid attention to the story, you'll understand exactly what Fontaine is capable of. Let's go back to the strip club. We learned that Ryan had an illegitimate child that he didn't know about, and it was sold to Suchong. Immediately before entering this room, we get the audio diary from Suchong stating that the only individuals who can use the Vita chambers currently are those with Ryan's DNA. Yeah, we're putting pieces together now, boys. Immediately after that, we get another audiobook with Suchong, where he's forcing a child to kill a puppy through mental conditioning. You've guessed it, sports fans. The main character is actually Ryan's illegitimate child, sold to Suchong, mentally conditioned by Suchong for Fontaine to use as his trump card to take over Rapture. So why does Ryan self-redact right in front of the main character? Well, if you've been paying really close attention up to this point, you'll know Ryan has been down here for the better part of 15 years. He has spent almost his entire fortune building Rapture and recruiting individuals to come to Rapture. He lost his woman, Diane McClintock, and he murdered his side piece after he found out that she sold the pre-fetus that was his son. He murdered Bill McDonough, the only person that he actually trusted in Rapture. Before its construction and during its fall, Fontaine has already taken every single thing from Ryan that he had. And Ryan knows that the main character, Jack, is his illegitimate child. It's the reason he strangled Jasmine. It's the reason he knows about the WYK, would you kindly, conditioning that Jack underwent that has propelled the main character on the quest to murder Ryan for the entirety of this game. Ryan is a man at the end, backed into a corner, truthfully, with nowhere to go. But Ryan, being the man that he is, has to go out on his own terms. That is non-negotiable. So he has his illegitimate child beat him to death. And in that way, only slightly, but in that way, Ryan does win. He got to choose how it happened and when it happened. And Fontaine didn't get to pull the trigger. And that's all that really matters to Ryan. Now that Ryan's done for, I would like to say that I do not believe, this is going to be a hard pill to swallow. I do not believe that Ryan was a bad or malicious individual to begin with. I do not think that he set out to make Rapture so that he could have his own slums and fiefdom and be the king and be the man. I do not think that that is what he was going for. The story of Andrew Ryan is one of a child fleeing communist Russia, coming to America, seeing his dad get taken to prison due to certain laws that were broken. Andrew Ryan sees what they did to Hiroshima and Nagasaki, and he wants to get away from that because he specifically states that humanity can be better, but they have to get away from the intervening governments and religions. So I do not think Ryan was a bad character by any means. I do not think that he was a malicious man in the beginning. I think that he was misguided. He had a bit of a messiah complex. He had the money and the means, and he thought that he could create his own little pocket of society that could become a shining example for the rest of the world. And while that is extremely misguided, he did not set out in the beginning to destroy people's lives. That's exactly why he didn't even ask for investors. He actually did build Rapture with all of his own money. That being said, when Rapture began to fall apart, Ryan tightened his grasp on the community and became the very thing that he hated, a fascist government. And it is 110% wild to me that Andrew Ryan, one of the world's most powerful and influential billionaires, was taken down by a lowly con man who was raised in an orphanage and came from nothing. It does truly speak volumes to exactly what Fontaine is capable of through social engineering and what kind of person he was for him to even want to do this. That's enough of my rambling. I don't feel sorry for Andrew Ryan. I feel as though in the end he did get what he deserved, but I wanted to at least throw it out there that his character is not just a bad one, it is a tragic one. He had true tragedy befall him when he tried to be the hero. So now that us as the players understand that we were his illegitimate child and that Fontaine has been pulling all the strings this entire time, let's go put this DNA key in here and stop Rapture from exploding. Before I forget, I would like to remind everyone that Suchong did state that when we were mentally conditioned, we were 1 year old and 58 pounds with the musculature of a teenager, and that was in 1959, and the game takes place in 1960. So canonically, the main character is only just about 2 years old. That's kind of funny. Genetic key inserted, Atlas lets us know what's going on and finally drops the curtain. We get a nice little villain laugh segue here that I truly enjoy.
It's time to end this little masquerade. There ain't no Atlas kid. Never was. Fella in my line of work takes on a variety of aliases. Hell, once I was even a Chinaman for 6 months. But you've been a sport, so I guess I owe you a little honesty. The name's Frank Fontaine.
Fontaine revealed it's time for a nice little escape sequence with the little sisters who are now repaying their debt to us, and they just decide to drop us down a goddamn air vent. Legs broken, crisis averted, we finally wake up in a hospital bed with Tenenbaum and all the little girls, and she begins to drop a bombshell on us.
Welcome to the city where you were born. You are angry at Fontaine, yes? Now you know the truth. You are his tool, brought back to Rapture to save him. You have saved many of my little ones. I owe you a debt.
Even in troubled times.
While you sleep, I undo some of Fontaine's mental conditioning. His control is no longer complete, but he can still pull some very unpleasant strings.
They always arrive without
We made your mind with many locks and keys. Fontaine has most of those keys, but not all. Suchong designed your mind, taught Fontaine to control you. You might find answers in Suchong's flat in Mercury Suites.
New objective revealed. Fontaine hates that we're still alive and gives us a command to just stop our heart from beating, which is cool. Also, right here I learned that the chemical thrower is the most overpowered weapon in this game. Seriously, upgrade it first, use it, don't be like me. Also, this is where I learned that the crossbow is a very, very, very powerful weapon that I've been sleeping on for this entire game. So, also, don't be like me.
That's why he commissioned Lot 192. The antidote to the mental control plasmid.
We listened to an audiobook where Suchong tells us about the antidote to the mental conditioning that is currently killing us. I ended up stumbling upon one of the most terrible sights I've seen in this game so far, and it's just piles of redacted children, and I hated it. And if you guys remember, near the start of this game, I did become a mortuary assistant near the very beginning, so I spend the rest of the game cremating any body that I see. I like to think it's better this way. Tenenbaum's house is absolutely beautiful. The light rays are positively wonderful. This place looks, and there's a dead child. Still, that view though, with the ink spots playing in the background, I see why people came to Rapture. We get a little bit of exposition here telling us exactly how Rapture fell. Everyone was poor because there was no minimum wage, there were shitty jobs, and Fontaine decided to make a soup kitchen where he also gave people atom and plasmids and turned them into junkies, and then he used pheromones like Walt Disney to turn them into robots and use them against Ryan. It's very convoluted, but there you go. Our first dose of the antidote 192 picked up. The game decides to change on us a little bit by giving us random plasmid powers and cycling through them on its own will, so we no longer get to choose our plasmid powers until we get fully inoculated. We make our way to Apollo Square, but not before I huck a rocket at Big Daddy just for funsies. Honestly, the difficulty bump at this point in the game is ridiculous. Aside from you losing your powers and it randomly selecting new ones, which also switches you to a plasmid instead of the gun that you're just firing with, enemies start to become a lot stronger. They're not bullet spongy, but watch me get bodied by this Rosie right here. I've still got a good maybe 15 to 20% health, and it just one-shots me outright, instead of taking me down to that sliver of a health that the game was doing previously. But I am Andrew Ryan's son, so I do come back with a vengeance and a grenade launcher and steal his child. You guys get to see some sick-ass, sweet-ass crossbow shots moving forward. Also, check this wombo combo out. It gave me Cyclone Trap and a crossbow, and I hit her in midair, and I thought it was just too cool not to include. We find Suchong's apartment with a dead man on a table with a Big Daddy drill inside of him. Let's listen to the audiobook. Maybe we can see what happened to Suchong.
Clinical trial protector system, plasmid lot 255. Dr. Suchong, client Ryan Industries. Very frustrating day. I can't seem to get the damn Big Daddies to imprint on the little brats. The protection bond is just not forming.
Papa Suchong?
Get away. Maybe if I modify the genetic sequence. Shush. Sequence to allow for. Get away, you filthy little shit! What? What are you doing? Get back! Get back!
Well, that was probably the most deserved death in all of Rapture, but here you get to see one of the most undeserved deaths in all of Rapture. I hated this, but it was pretty funny. I died to a turret in the turlet. Yeah, you can't make that up. Anyways, 360 jump through the bathysphere on our way to Point Prometheus. Here we finally run into Fontaine, and he's a fucking madman. Like, just a madman. New Pack-a-Punch found. Tenenbaum hits us with the revelation that we now we now have to scavenge Big Daddies so that we can become one. Ay. I'm not gonna lie, I wanted to run around and find collectibles like normal, but the way Tenenbaum yells at me.
Where do you think you're going? You need to become a Big Daddy before you are able to draw out the little ones.
She makes me want to do whatever she says. We find our boots with our paste stub in them in the library. And then we start to get roasted for how we're going to smell as a Big Daddy, which I thought was pretty funny.
Maybe something can be done, but the little sisters seem to like order.
I ended up hacking open a security room that had a key code that I just could not find out, and I found probably the most amount of resources in this game that I've ever found in a single location. It was honestly grand. It made my day. We pick up our suit in there, and now it's time to go find a helmet. Again, the chemical thrower is the most OP gun in the game. Don't take it from me, watch the clip. I unfortunately found here what is the last pack-a-punch in the game, and I'm a little upset, but I do have to say I found 11 of the 12 pack-a-punches without a guide, so that's saying something. I'm a Neanderthal, and I've never found all the pack-a-punches, but I've also never really tried or used a guide. This just goes to show anyone can play this game. We yet again get made fun of for how we're going to smell, and then we get made fun of for how we smell.
And then the little ones will be thrown to you like a bee to honey. You smell disgusting. Just like a big daddy. I can only be glad I am nowhere near you and that awful stink.
Fontaine then threatens to kill the children for some strange reason. I don't know about this one. We get this funny learning segment right here where we have to choose the correct button and the wrong button hurts us and the right button gives us chips, and I just thought it was a funny section. Again, I use me big smart brain and trap corners to kill big daddies in close to one hit. Smarter, not harder, kids. Smarter, not harder. We find the helmet, and for some reason Fontaine gets really scared, starts shaking in his boots and pissing and shitting on the radio. We get told to go grab our very first little sister. And honestly, it's a pretty cool mechanic. You knock your wrench on the giant keyhole, out comes your little sister, and we make our way to the museum lobby.
Would mean very much to me if you will be gentle with the girls. Mein kleines Mädchen.
We see an interesting section with a lead head splicer where she shoots the ceiling and causes a giant skeleton to fall down, and I love this for some reason. It's just stupid and goofy, and it's great. We then have to protect the little sisters while they start sucking these grown men dry, which is kind of weird, but hey, the game said to do it, and it asked if I would kindly, so here we are. Tenenbaum gives us some exposition letting us know that even though we freed them from the slugs, their mental conditioning still holds them, and that is honestly one of the most terrible things of this game, because even though we chose the good path, the little sisters are just not free, and that sucks, man.
Even though they are physically free of the need to gather, Su Chung's mental conditioning still holds them to that terrible task.
Hopefully there's a lot 192 for them that can free their mental conditioning as well. Fontaine decides to tell us that he is nose brooming the booger sugar and really juicing up, getting ready for our encounter. I like the RP of being a big daddy and killing other big daddies over my little sister. I don't know why none of the other big daddies ever fight over their little sisters, but I guess there's some RP reason that it doesn't happen. We get handed the suck gun to remove the atom from Fontaine. Apparently that's going to be the only way to beat him. Fontaine waits above, the final boss battle, what it's all been about, and we get some good exposition from Fontaine. He's very delusional.
I remember when me and the crowd put you in that sub. You were no more than 2. You were my ace in the hole, but you were also the closest thing I ever had to a son. And that's why this hurts. Betrayal, kid. Life ain't strictly business.
Really funny to me the kind of man Fontaine is. He comes down here to Ryan's city, tries to take it over. He takes over Ryan's woman, Diane McClintock, and then he refers to us as the closest thing he's ever had to a son. Us, Ryan's son. I come to the conclusion that Fontaine is just a massive cuck. Strangely, Fontaine now resembles all of the statues around Rapture that Ryan created, only because Fontaine injected himself with every bit of atom that he could find. I thought this was a little weird, but it does look cool to know that he is the embodiment of Rapture. The final boss battle is a pretty straightforward one. We have to reduce his health to 0 while keeping ours above 0, and every time his hits 0, he goes back to get more atom, and we just have to hit him with the little suck gun. He cycles through the elements, and we have to make sure that we use opposing elements on him whenever he does do the cycle. As stated, it's a pretty straightforward boss battle. There are a ton of ads. I ended up hacking maybe 3 or 4 robots during the fight and then essentially wasting all of my grenades and missiles on him to take him down. It wasn't too hard. Make sure to use ice when you need to and fire when you need to. Don't really bother with electricity. Ice and fire is just about all you need. But the fight is relatively short. I think I downed him in about 90 seconds.
I had you built. I sent you topside. I called you back, showed you what you was capable of. Even that life you thought you had, that was something I dreamed up and had tattooed inside your head. Now if you don't call that family, I don't know what is. And now...
I really have to say that I just love watching the little sisters give him hell right here. This is one of the most cathartic scenes in all of Bioshock. And we see the ending cutscenes. I'll let the good cutscene play first.
They offered you this city. And you refused it. And what did you do instead? What I've come to expect of you. You saved them. You gave them the one thing that was stolen from them. A chance. A chance to learn. To find love. To live. And in the end, what was your reward? You never said. But I think I know. A family.
And then we'll play the bad cutscene.
They offered you everything, yes. And in return, you gave them what I have come to expect of you. Brutality. You took what you wanted. All the Adam, all the power. And the Rapture trembled. But in the end, even the Rapture was not enough for you. Your father was terrified the world would try to steal the secrets of his city. But not you, for now you have stolen the terrible secrets of the world.
And that's it. Jack's story is over. Little sisters are saved. Rapture is in shambles, never to be recovered. I've got to say, between the two endings, the bad ending just doesn't feel right. It feels out of place. Considering that the main character was sent down to Rapture with mental conditioning, you would think that we would have no actual ambitions of our own for like world domination or anything like that. But I guess we were Ryan's child, so that may be inside of us. But it just makes a lot more sense to me that the first thing we do when we enter Rapture is we begin to help someone. So it makes a lot more sense to me that we also helped as many little sisters as we could. I feel like even though Jack is an accelerated clone, essentially, human nature still won out in the end. And my headcanon is that the canonical ending is that we saved as many people as we could. And I do have to say, that ending at the end where he's old and arthritic in bed and his hand's shaking and all the little girls grab his hand, I'd be lying if I said that wasn't a tearjerker for me. Truly a fantastic ending in my opinion. I know I had a lot to say when Andrew Ryan died, but he was the main titular antagonist of this game. He built Rapture. He was ingrained in everything and everyone you saw. He was important to me, to Rapture, to the story. Fontaine, however, we don't really ever get to learn too much about Fontaine except that he was ruthless and he was a boogeyman and he started the plasmid business. The game barely touches on him, and I think it's for good reason. Whereas Ryan was a tragic character, Fontaine was a malicious character. Ryan was a multifaceted individual who created Rapture with one goal in mind and tried to let people do their own thing, but realized that people can't be left to their own devices and started slowly tightening his grasp. He went from 2 laws of not being able to leave and not being able to steal to lynching people in the streets daily, to hostilely taking over the plasmid business and limiting what plasmids people had access to, which goes 110% against the free market that Ryan wanted to create inside of Rapture. That's what the entire Great Chain was about. That's the reason unions were villainized. Fontaine's ambitions were only more money and more power, nothing else. He had one side to him and was totally malicious. He used, abused, put down, and killed every single person and thing in his way. He specifically asked Suchong if he could get the toddler main character to snap the puppy's neck with his bare hands. What kind of a person does that, man? Fontaine was a very, very, very good, bad villain. Sometimes villains require depth. Sometimes they require multiple levels to their character, but Fontaine didn't need that. He was an exceptionally evil individual who used everyone and everything he could to get his way, and he was extremely charismatic doing so. Fontaine grew up an orphan, a nobody, sleeping in the backs of theaters and watching people act, and that's where he learned to be the person that he was. He learned to put on a mask at a very young age, used it to be a forger and a con man in New York City. He was not invited to Rapture. He heard that there was money to be made and stole someone's identity. It's hard to say what Rapture would have turned out to have been had Fontaine not made his way to Rapture, since he 110%, since he was truly the catalyst for pretty much everything bad that happened in Rapture. Don't get me wrong, things in Rapture were bad before Fontaine really started meddling in things. People moving from the mainland down to Rapture to work a job for 2 days that gave them no minimum wage, guaranteed pay, no benefits, and then just left them down inside of Rapture in the slums. Like, Fontaine didn't cause everything. He exploited poor, innocent people's weakness, actively stole children, and violated every single bit of human rights possible to get his way. It's hard to say what Rapture would have become if Ryan and McDonough had remained in charge of everything and Fontaine had never showed up. It truly is. And I would like to see that alternate reality. I'd like to see what happened. But this is what we got. Good ending done. Credits rolled. This was Bioshock. If you've not played it for yourself, you should. I did not show even a tenth of all of the audio diaries that fully flesh out this world, because it would take probably 2 hours just to play all the audio diaries. I didn't dive into the book too much that gives you all of the backstory on Rapture, down from its conception to its inception and then its fall, which, by the way, you should check out in your own time. It's a good book. But I hope you enjoyed our little retrospective of Bioshock today. I hope you enjoyed re-entering Rapture yet again, and remember what made this game special to an entire generation. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments below. Would you like to see me continue making videos on the Bioshock series? Would you like to see Bioshock 2 or 3 next? Or would you like to see something else entirely? Comment down below. Let me know what you think. I would love to hear your thoughts. Thank you for spending time with me today and watching my video. That being said, would you kindly hit that like and subscribe button